Hi, I'm Maggie. Welcome to Experiments in Crafting. Tonight we're going to be talking about a bunch of different things, and then I'll open it up to Q&A as always. So a couple of things on the agenda are I've got a bunch of new books from the library, a couple that I ordered from Amazon, a couple that I've had for a while, and I'm hoping you guys can help me pick out a border a little bit. I'm going to kind of flip through a couple of them and just see if I can find a border that I like to go with this interlocking shell blanket. We released the video on this tutorial, but the blanket I just finished and I need to put a edge around it and then get a tutorial out to you guys on the edging. So we've got that to talk about. There are a whole bunch of yarn companies that have either big sales going on or a bunch of new yarn. So I got my laptop out. I thought I'd go to a couple websites and show you guys what's on sale and what's new. If there's some new stuff that we'd like to see or you'd like to see me review, I can put that on my list and pick that up and get it reviewed. The other, yeah, I think that's basically what's on my agenda for tonight. But yeah, so after we get through that stuff, then we'll go to Q&A. If you have questions throughout the stream about anything that we're talking about or anything that you'd like to see, future topic ideas, leave those in the live chat and I will try and answer those as we go. All right, so let's get started. Actually, I'll leave this guy closed for now. We'll do the laptop second. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I wasn't supposed to close it. I only had half closed it before. Sorry. I don't want to lose that for the feed later. All right, so I finished off this blanket, and I'm going to try and make some space here on my table. I finished off this interlocking shell stitch blanket, and it has a really nice texture. It hasn't been washed or blocked or anything like that, but it needs a border around the edge. The pattern itself is already pretty interesting, so I think I'm going to be looking for either a simple shell-shaped border or maybe something sort of plain. I don't want to go crazy ornate and take away from the look of the fabric itself. If I was doing a plain double crochet, single crochet, half double crochet, just solid blanket, that's where I would put an ornate border. But I was going to flip through a couple of these new books that I've got, give you guys a little bit of a preview of some of them. I'm going to try and review as many of them as I can. If there's something that you're really interested in, let me know, and I will push that to the top of the priority list. So this is the blanket that we're working with. And so I'm just going to pull a couple of these out. I'll give you kind of a brief description of them, and then flip through a couple of these books and see what you guys have to say about doing a border on this. Couple of people chatting away. Hello, Savannah. Stitch Itch. I really do love the colors in this blanket. This is Premier DK Colors. And they do a really nice job with these DK color yarns in they don't so much blend like a gradient yarn, but they blend well enough because the colors sort of flow into each other really well. And so there's sections on here that are a little bit gray-blue where they transition, but mostly it flows really well. I think this set of colors looks really nice. Honestly, I think that you could give this blanket for either a baby boy or baby girl. I intended it for a baby blanket. But with as bright and fun as the blues are, I think it would be fine for either a boy or a girl. So, but DK Colors comes in a whole bunch of interesting colors. They just released a bunch of new ones, and we'll check those out on Premier's website because they're one of the websites that's having a big sale right now and have released a whole bunch of new stuff, mostly new colors in different lines of yarn that already existed. but they have a really pretty one called like newsprint or newspaper or something. It's gray and black and red, and it's really striking, something very, very different than you see just typically. So, and then Sandy, yeah, I agree. The colors and the texture, I really like. I've done two in a row right now, two tutorials in a row right now, where both blankets have been very solid. The other one is the Granny Stripe blanket, which I've got over here, and both just have beautiful texture. And both of these tutorials are available on the channel. I'd love for you guys to check them out. If you make anything with them, please share them with me. I have Facebook, Instagram, and now I have a Twitter account, which I'm still figuring out. I don't know Twitter very much. My husband knows it a lot more, so he's been helping me navigate Twitter. But whatever social media platform that you prefer, I should be available on, and you can contact me or send me pictures. I love to see stuff made out of this. I'm going to try and figure out Facebook pages on like managing pages is sort of hectic and they don't make it very easy, but I'm going to try and figure out how to get the community page together so that we can make more of a community out of this channel where people can talk about any of the tutorials or help each other out, and that I can also help out and we can share pictures of finished objects as my tutorial setup gets larger, that you can share finished projects with each other, because I think that's a lot of fun. I think it makes it more fun for everybody, like the whole experience. Okay. Yeah, I think the name, this colorway, somebody said, is very patriotic. I don't know, it feels very East Coast, I guess, or like, I don't know, it reminds me of like lobsters and boats and, I don't know, probably Americana type stuff, but it's called Regatta, so I don't know, I guess it was intended to remind you of boats and patriotic stuff, so I thought it was kind of cool. I sort of keep wanting to make a robot and put it on here. I don't really know why. Like, I want to make like a robot applique and put it on here because something feels robot-like, and I don't know why. I think it might be the just like the stitch pattern being kind of I don't know, block-like. So, but Shannon, I see your question. Do I sell stuff besides hats? You have enough of them. I don't really sell anything. I don't really like to sell finished crochet projects. I have a really, really hard time pricing them. The effort that you put into a crochet project never, like, nobody can pay you enough for the amount of time that you actually put in. If even if you like tried to pay yourself minimum wage, you couldn't ever get back the amount of hours that you put into a project. And you can get people to pay you for the yarn that you used, and I don't know. I pretty much reserve all of my crochet projects for gifts, and then I never have to make anything for anybody. I have sold a couple of hats and small things to like friends of my sisters who've asked me for specific projects that they wanted for their kids. And so I've done that, and mostly I usually charge them the cost of the yarn, maybe a little bit of my time. But even those are fun because people continue to send me pictures of their kids wearing or using stuff that I've made. And so that's really all I ever want out of crochet, is just to give somebody something that they absolutely love and that they're, that they continue to use or their kids use. So I guess that's my philosophy on it. But yeah, I don't sell anything finished. What's that? Yeah. So back to the border on this. I'm gonna go through a few of these books, just show you quick looks at them. I'm gonna do full reviews on as many of them as I can, but I just picked up a ton of books from the library and a handful of these that I've had for a while. So this pile here are all books that I've probably shown before on stream, though maybe not these top two. So the Indispensable Stitch Collection, I'm pretty sure there's a review for. Somebody'd have to correct me if I'm wrong on that. If there isn't, then I definitely will get one out on this one, because this is one that I picked up to review and really, really ended up liking. So I think there's a review available for that. This one I know we haven't done a review on, but this is one of my favorite Stitch dictionaries. And there's a really confusing thing going on with this book and another book and some bad Amazon reviews, and I have all of the books on order, and I cannot wait to clear up the misconception going on, because it's all kinds of crazy. So keep an eye out for that. That will be a big review on 4 books all at the same time. These 2 books are both in Japanese. I ordered them from Amazon. They shipped out of Japan. They are all really, really beautiful stitch patterns. There are no borders in this one, but these ones are all in charts. So even if you don't read Japanese or know anything about Japanese language, you don't need to, because crochet charts are universal. So as long as you know how to read charts, you should be able to do these. And there are some really ornate, beautiful charts in there. So at one point I will review these, but I would like to get a video together on how to read charts first, so that when I review these, that you are all able to buy them if you so choose and use them. Most of these Stitch dictionaries, especially the good ones, have written instructions and charts. But these ones have such unique and interesting stitch patterns in them that I think they're worth it anyway, even though they don't have written instructions. And if they did, they would probably be in Japanese, and so that wouldn't help anyway. This one's a book I picked up from the library. I am not in love with it, and I will do a full review on this, but this is all just tips and tricks and no stitches, so we're going to set that one aside. This one will just be a review. This is 350 Tips and Techniques and Trade Secrets by Jan Eaton. I didn't go through all of the names and authors, but I will on the next ones that I pull across here. This one does have some stitches in it, but it's mostly basic stitch patterns. I'll flip through here and see if there are edging patterns, because there might be. But this is a complete crochet course. And so far from what I've read of this, it's actually been very, very good. All packed with good information. So we'll flip through here and see if there's edging patterns. But I'm just kind of going through my pile. Again, if there's anything in here that really interests you, let me know in the live chat or in the comment section if you're watching this after the live stream is over. And we'll move particular books up in the priority list on getting videos together. This is a book that is just all Afghan patterns. It does not have specific border tutorials. This one's called Unexpected Afghans by Robin Chachula, it looks like. This one is all edging patterns. Unfortunately, they're very delicate bead patterns, which I am not going to put onto a baby blanket for any number of reasons. They're too ornate for this blanket, but also they are beaded, and I wouldn't want to put beads onto anything that a baby's going to chew on. So I will definitely get a review together on this, because I'm pretty interested in doing some of the ornate beading on the edges of fabric, but not for tonight. This book, 200 Crochet Stitches by Sarah Hazel, is the same as the Crochet Stitch Dictionary below. And that's one that we'll touch upon in that big video that I was talking about before. This is a book that I happened across in the library today. It's the complete step-by-step guide. Crochet, the complete step-by-step guide. But it's by DK. And these tend to be really, really good books. They make books on pretty much every science and history topic you can think of. They seem to specialize in like kids books and like eyewitness history, I think is like one of their series. But their books tend to be really good. I have not even cracked this guy open. I don't even know what's in here. So we'll flip through here and see if there's any edging patterns. And then this 500 stitch dictionary, I don't think has a specific author. I think this is probably an edited, yeah, it doesn't seem to have an author to attribute. But this one, despite its pretty lackluster cover, has a really, really good layout and good information. And so I'm going to flip through here. I'm pretty sure there were edging patterns in there. Slide my whole pile out of the way because it's getting too tall here. All right, the last two are from the Harmony Guides. They make a whole bunch of different knitting and crochet books. And I think that there are some edging patterns in here that we can take a look at and see if there's something interesting for the putting on the edge of the interlocking shell blanket. Okay. I see a couple comments from Mary. Yeah, I think there's a whole lot of different interesting books here. And like I said, we're going to flip through a few of these. We're looking for a border that I can put onto this baby blanket. So I'm going to open a couple of these up and see if I can find some edgings that I can show you guys in a little bit more detail here. So my original thought here, and we're going to zoom in a little bit so that you can see these. So hang tight for just a second. Mary asked if we could list the books on the notes or the info section so she can see if the library carries them. Absolutely. I can list these out. There's a whole bunch of different ones here, and I can make a list of them. I will also be doing individual reviews of those. They will come out slowly over time, but the library is a great resource. That's where I get most of the books that I review. Some that I end up buying in the end, but yeah, I will list them out for you. So this is a pretty small edging and trimming section. It's actually just 2 pages in this book, but there is a really nice shell edging here, which has some interest for this interlocking shell blanket. Like I said, I want something relatively plain that doesn't detract from the blanket. I like that this one is shown on like 3 rows of single crochet. So that might be something interesting to box it in with just plain single crochet and then do a single scalloped edge. That kind of sounds like fun for this particular blanket. And yeah, so it's shells, so it matches the blanket, and I don't think will detract from it at all. There are a couple of other interesting ones here. This picot edging one is pretty interesting. It's just very simple picots on the edge. I think they're just showing all of these on single crochet borders, but I kind of like that idea. Sort of boxing in the blanket and then doing a little edging will sort of set the edging off from the blanket. And that kind of sounds like an interesting idea. There's also a corded edging that looks to me like the crab stitch based on what I'm looking at. And so we already have a tutorial for the crab stitch. and you can find that on the channel. It's a pretty interesting little stitch. Yeah, I see somebody mentioning that your favorite edging is the crab stitch. So yeah, the crab stitch is really a beautiful edging. It just finishes it off really nicely. Crab stitch is also known as a reverse single crochet. You literally are just working single crochets from left to right instead of right to left. And it's really tricky to get the hang of, like the first 3 stitches, and after that it's pretty smooth sailing. But yeah, so this blanket would actually look very nice finished in the crab stitch, but since I already have a tutorial for the crab stitch, I'm looking for something else to share with you guys. And then looks like they did a double corded edge. I'm kind of interested to read this. I'll probably read this in a little bit, but I don't know how they went about that, because I don't know how you put additional stitches into the crab stitch. They get kind of twisty and weird. But this double chain arch is very interesting. It's sort of an interlocking arch stitch here. And I think you guys can see that. But along the edge, it looks like they're chaining, and then they probably come back through and chain again and sort of have this looping arch going on. It looks very, very simple, even though based on the chart, it's just single crochets and chains, where you just offset them a little bit, but it looks very elegant worked up. So that's a possible contender. If there's one of these over any other one that you guys really like, I'd love for you to put that in the chat and let me know what you want to see. I'd be happy to do any of these ones that we're talking about. So something up here, I think is visible here, this bullion scrolls. This is not at all what I'm looking for. This is way too ornate. There's so much going on. Bullion stitches are notoriously crazy difficult. So pretty much everything about this is not what I'm looking for this particular blanket, though it does look really cool. Same thing with this crow's foot edging. It really doesn't go with what I'm looking for, but it is a cool edging to keep in mind. So if there's something on this page that you see that you'd like a tutorial done in, that'd be great for me to know. But for this particular blanket, this is not, I don't think, at all what I want on the edge of a very busy pattern already. So that's all that there is in that book. I'm going to see if this one also has some edging patterns that we can kind of look through and see what you guys think. So yeah, this one has a few more edgings in it. Try and stay on camera here. These are a bit ornate and lacy for a baby blanket, in my opinion. So one of the things that you have to keep in mind is if you look at patterns like this, these look like they're worked up in cotton and relatively fine cotton. If I work this up in a DK or a worsted weight yarn, all of these loops are going to be much larger. And I don't like to give gifts that babies can get their hands all the way through the holes. So small holes that baby fingers can grab onto are fine. Big holes where arms can get into are not okay in my book. So just keeping that in mind, these are too lacy and open for my taste for a baby blanket. And just kind of on a cursory look here, all of these are a bit too ornate for what I'm looking for this blanket. Again, too open. There are some really interesting and beautiful stitch patterns. They're just not appropriate for this project. These would look really nice on the edges of doilies, on the edges of, like if you wanted to scale up a tablecloth just to make something interesting. I've seen people, actually I recently saw at Target, somebody had, well, not somebody, but like they produced curtains that had scalloped edges that had little crochet stitches on the edges, which I thought were really, really pretty. They were really expensive, but you could easily add a crochet edge to a project.
That's true. You are using a bigger yarn, I think. So they wouldn't look as defined.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody mentioned that they wouldn't look as defined, and that's true too. So in addition to something, say like this stitch here, where it's very ornate and there's lots of fine detail, when you use this in something that's not crochet thread, you're going to lose a lot of that stitch definition. And so that is also true. Just in addition to the holes being too large, they just won't look as ornate if you do them in a large yarn. And then somebody else mentioned that they've seen pillowcases with those edges. Yeah, I've seen a bunch of different like home projects, and it's just kind of a cute way to add some detail to something that's just plain fabric. It's very easy to just add. You can just buy like a piece of fleece and add a border to it without really any big issue. They'd all be in a box over under the table. I have a number of blankets that I've added just simple crochet borders to for friends, family, mostly for kids. I think they're a really good project for kids' gifts because you can buy a cheap piece of fleece with a kid's favorite character or whatever they're into that week and put a border on it with minimal effort, and then you don't have to feel bad when they outgrow that character, versus making them like a Grafgan where you do corner to corner and change your colors out of their favorite character, and it takes you, 6 weeks to make that blanket, or 6 months even. And then by the time you get it done, they've outgrown that favorite character. These you can do in an afternoon. So this is just a piece of fleece. It's got some unicorns and, Pegasus and some stuff. Just kind of a fun little piece of fabric. I put a really simple shell border on it. And this was easily done in an afternoon. I think there's a tutorial up on my channel showing you how to do this. We might have taken it down because it was a live stream. I'd have to go back and look, but if there's not, we should really redo this because this is a really fun project. I kind of thought we did redo it though. Like I said, I could be wrong. We had some live stream technical difficulties, and I know we took at least one tutorial down. But these are really fun. You just need a skip cutter. You can do it by punching holes manually. Like you can take an awl, or you can take just a pair of scissors and snip. But I have a rotary cutter that cuts every other. It looks like a gear, and on the spiky parts it cuts, and then on the gaps it skips over some of the fabric, and then you have holes to work single crochets in, and I work a single crochet border and then whatever I want on top. So these are super fun. Yeah, they couldn't be any faster to work up. It's maybe 3 rounds of crochet tops, and you finish it off. They're really good for fabric remnants. If you just are walking through the store and they have like a yard of fabric, you can make a really nice little car seat blanket by just putting an edge on 1 yard of fabric. And at least at Joann Fabric, you get whatever the sale price is on the fabric plus 50% off. So if it's $20 a foot or $20 a yard and it's on sale for 40% off, and then you get 50% off because it's a remnant piece. And so it gets really, really cheap if you're buying little remnant pieces. That was just off of a remnant piece, and it would be perfect for just a little car seat blanket to throw in with like a last minute baby shower gift. It would be a great little side gift to go with something. So back to this book, I should point out the first book we were looking at was the 300 crochet stitches. This is the 220 crochet stitch like sequel to that book. But I am not seeing anything in here that is going to make anything good for for this baby blanket. So I'm going to set this guy aside and move on to the next book. Yeah, Mary is pointing out that it would be perfect with a matching toy. Yeah, if you got a piece of fleece that had a character of some sort, like Daniel Tiger, and then you picked up a little Daniel Tiger stuffed animal and you just put an edge on that, it would be absolutely like a perfect gift for like a 1-year-old birthday party. I always think that like 1 and 2-year-old birthday parties are just the worst because they don't need anything really. And generally, if they're having a birthday party, they're already going to be getting so many toys. So something simple like that is usually very much appreciated by parents who don't really want any more toys, because they're already, overwhelmed with them. So, moving on, I've got this 500 crochet stitches. I'm going to turn it towards me real quick and flip through and find the edging section. It looks like this entire section is edging. So let me flip to the front and see if there's... One of the things that I really like about stitch dictionaries is some of them have picture indexes. And so you can sort of just look from the front. It doesn't look like this one has one. One of the things I didn't love about this particular book was that it changes picture sizes. So some of these are pretty small and then they get a lot bigger. Again, we've got the picot edging. So that's an interesting one. Could be a very nice simple border for this. I'm going to kind of flip through these fast. I don't want to spend forever in each book. Another chain arch, so that looks like it could be a good contender. One of the things I do like about this book is it does look like a lot of the samples they worked up in regular yarn. So either like a DK or a worsted versus using thread. So what Mary was talking about before, where you lose a lot of detail here, at least you can see what it looks like worked up as a worsted weight stitch. Again, corded edging, which is also known as the crab stitch. Fringe. I don't want to do fringe on a baby blanket. It'll just get gross. Crow's foot again, though this is a much more muted crow's foot than what we were seeing in that other book. I still don't want to do it for this particular tutorial or this particular blanket because I don't think I'm going to like how it looks with the shells, but it's a good one to keep in mind if you guys are interested in seeing a tutorial for that. These are very ornate edgings. I like this edge here. So this one's called the Hardy edge, and it looks like large fans separated. Well, it looks like what you do is either single or double crochet. I can't read the chart upside down from here, but you do a stitch here and then chains and then another stitch, and then on the next round you work a bunch of double crochets into the chain space. And so that's an interesting contender. It would be shells, which would go with the blanket, but it would stand off a little bit from the blanket. So that's something to think about. And I'd love to hear what you guys think about these different edgings. This one's just really cool. I don't know how well you can see this, but it's called Curling Petals, and it's a huge ornate flower. Let me move it over a little bit so it's centered a little bit better. But this border is made up of huge, like, ornate flowers. That could be really, really pretty on a blanket for a baby girl. However, I don't think I want to do this for this particular pattern. Mostly because I don't think it's going to look great with the interlocking shells. Again, you can sort of see this, what I was talking about, how I don't like how they change the scale of the pictures. At the very beginning of this, we've got teeny tiny pictures, you've got like medium-sized pictures, and then there's this gigantic one here. that was one of the things I didn't love about this book, but I'll go into more detail when I review this fully. But yeah, so there's some interesting patterns in here. Diamonds and Fans is kind of an interesting interlocking shell border, which could look interesting, but it's a bit crazy. There's a lot of single crocheting going on for a border. Pin tuck ridges, fan edges. But yeah. Sorry, let me wake my phone back up, see what you guys are saying. Yeah, so somebody's saying the shell shouldn't have large, wouldn't have large holes if I work up a shell, and wouldn't be too big for a baby's hand. So a shell border might just be the simplest way to go on this blanket. But it'll match really well with the interlocking shells. So it'll be all interlocking shells, and then it'll have shells on the edge, and it'll kind of all go together. So I think that's probably our top contender for this. I'm not seeing anything that's jumping off the page at me for a baby blanket. There are, like, this is an interesting double chevron with a shell in the middle, but I don't think it's a good option for this baby blanket. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess if anyone else has any questions, comments, anything they want to talk about, crochet related, yarn related, I'd love to hear those in the live chat section. But yeah, so these kind of devolve into very ornate patterns, but I don't know. I thought it would just be kind of fun to go through some of these and just kind of pick something out and kind of let you guys help me pick what's going to work best for tutorials, what you're interested in seeing, and what you think goes well with the blanket itself. Yeah. So yeah, there was a double chain stitch in the first book that was very interesting, and then there was a simple shell and this double chain arch edging. So I think those are probably my top contenders. I think this one could be really interesting on the edge, especially because it's a color changing yarn. So I'm going to use the same yarn, and so when I go around the first time, it will be like light blue, and then when I come around the second time, it'll be a different color because I'll be to a different part in the yarn. So I think that one could be really interesting on this blanket. Otherwise, the shell edging will be interesting. It could be a little bit weird because it's going to start out as, it's going to end up as two different color border. Because as I work this, these shells are going to be light blue, and then as I get around to the other side, they're going to be dark blue just because of the color changes. So that's something to keep in mind when you're working with a color changing yarn. Your border might change colors on you, and you might be fine with that, but you might not be. So depending on what you think about that, it could be not what you want. So I'm probably going to decide between those two, and if you guys have opinions one way or the other on those borders, I can always adapt the chain arch, I can always adapt to be less chains so that the loops aren't so big and you can't get baby like whole arms through the holes if they're too big. So that's one of the nice things about crochet, you can just make it work for you. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit here, and I have a whole bunch of sales and new yarn to show you. So we're going to switch to my laptop view. But again, if you have questions about anything that you're seeing, if there's yarns that you see, some of these new ones that I'm showing off that you guys would like to see reviewed, I put those in the chat section so that I know which ones you guys are most interested in. And we'll get those reviews together for you. Yeah. So I am going to switch over here and yep. All right. So I'm going to start with Premiere. Premiere has had a big sale going on. They're claiming that these are going to be their new low prices, but I think these are just sale prices. And we lost there's the banner. So it looks like Rodeo, Serenity, a couple of different lines of Serenity, and Luna are all on like mega sale. Then they also have a side sale going on of like different colors, different lines that they either have clearance or sale prices on. The Premiere Everyday is a pretty good, just basic worsted weight yarn. Sweet Roll, I should have a video coming out on pretty soon. I have a project in the works, and then I need to do the review video on that. This one's new to the sale, but some of these are on like crazy sales, like 5 for 10 for pretty much any amount of yarn is a great deal. And I think, yeah, they do free shipping at $75. If you don't want to spend $75, I don't think their shipping was outlandish. But 5 for 10 on a number 3 weight yarn, that's enough to do a blanket. So you could do 5 balls of this, $10, you'd have enough to do a whole blanket. So that's a pretty fantastic deal on that yarn. I've been pretty happy with everything Premiere that I've worked with. The exception to that is Premiere Parfait Layers has got some quality control issues, but it's really a very nice yarn. They just have some issues where at the mill they'll tie colors in like the wrong order. You can look at my whole review on Parfait Layers, but I really, really love the way Parfait Layers feels. And it looks like Parfait, which is the exact same yarn, just not layered with multiple colors, is also on in the sale. So there's a lot going on, a ton of things on sale. I just kind of wanted to share these with you guys. I can share things like this on Instagram or Facebook, but right now I don't have that many followers, so I kind of wanted just to tell you guys about that. Premiere also, I mentioned this earlier, has new colors available in a bunch of their yarns. So I think this is just a new yarn, the Premiere Retro Velvet. I'm sure it's a chenille style yarn like, well, actually, it's almost certainly exactly like Lion Brand Velux and whoever makes, it would have to be Bernat Velvet. I'm sure it's a direct competitor to those two yarns. Looks like there's some new colors of Premier Home Cotton sold on a cone for making a lot of dishcloths of the same color. Sweet Roll has some new colors. Bloom, I think, is a brand new yarn. And then DK Colors. And I really wanted to show you guys these new colors because I just thought they were really bold and interesting. Yeah, so just as a reminder, the shell blanket, the interlocking shells that I showed earlier, and I can pull back out. This is the blanket that we were picking the border for. This is out of Premier DK Colors, and I really enjoyed the yarn. I really like the color changes. I didn't have any issues with colors being in the wrong order or anything like that, like I did with Parfait Layers. And it is super, super soft and like silky. And it's a DK weight, so it makes a really nice blanket. A lot of times I feel like worsted might just be a little bit too heavy for a baby blanket, but I really like a number 3 lightweight yarn or a DK. But anyway, so some of these colors, this one is called Parrot, and it was just such like bright, bold, fun colors. I really want to get my hands on some of this and make something out of it. I don't really know what. Then they have Wisteria, which is lots of purples and blues, which always draw my eyes. But then I really thought this one was really cool. Very, very masculine colorway. Would be great for like a lot of people do blankets before kids go away to college. I think this would be an excellent choice, or like a graduation from, these were my high school colors, or very close to my high school colors. So makes me think of like school colors or something like that. But I don't know. Actually, I guess they were my college colors as well. But this makes me think of, I don't know, sports or something masculine, but I just thought it was a really cool colorway. You don't see a lot of black mixed in, mostly because people hate working with black, which is somewhat understandable, but it does really look striking when you do see it. And I think there was one more color, and it was called suede, and it was pretty cool. It's got some greens and yellows and oranges. Looks like there's a few more comments in here. Yeah, so somebody's mentioning, because of the yarn, back when we were talking about the border, that the double chain border would be interesting on this, especially because the yarn changes color. Premier, I do have some of the puzzle yarn. I haven't worked with it yet. It's very like fuzzy, not fuzzy like long hair, but it has an interesting texture, if I remember correctly. Yeah, and somebody, whoa, yarns are freaking out. Somebody's asking if I can hold the blanket up one more time, and I absolutely can. So that's what the blanket looks like here. And again, this is Premier DK Colors. This is interlocking shell stitch. The tutorial is available on the channel. And we just picked we've got the border narrowed down to 2 options. I'm going to pick between the 2. I probably will try out that the arches one and see how it works with this. Otherwise, I'll go with a simple shell. And then we're showing off some of the new DK colors available. So this one, I don't actually see this colorway listed anymore. So I don't know if they discontinued it. Was it up? Nimbus? Nope. That one looks paler blue on my screen. Maybe it looks different on yours, but I'll have to find the label on this and figure out what color this is. It would be pretty sad if they discontinued this color, because it was really pretty. But again, they've got some new colors out right now. A lot of good ones for like home stuff, I think. But yeah, I think I want to get some of the parrot and some of the newspaper colorways. Alright, so back to their homepage. I think that's all I wanted to show off. They've got a bunch of yarns on sale. They're all online only deals, but figured if you guys wanted to get some yarn at a really good deal, that this would be a good option and a good place to go get some stuff. I also, right before we started the live stream, I got the mail out of the mailbox, and I have a catalog from Knit Picks telling me that they've got a whole bunch of stuff on sale. I don't know if you guys have ordered from Knit Picks before. I've only ordered from them once. I got some cotton yarn, which is cotton linen blend, and I really liked it. It was something that I couldn't find exactly what I wanted locally, and so I ordered from Knit Picks. I have a hard time ordering sight unseen. It's very difficult to know how yarns are going to feel and if you're going to end up liking them at all. And since Knit Picks doesn't have stores of any kind, like you can't even get it at, like, as far as I know, you can't even get it at like local yarn stores. So I'm always leery, but they've got a big sale going on summer yarns, and then they also have a big sale going on books. So I don't know what all is on sale here. Yeah. But it looks like pretty good sales. It's saying up to 50% off. They've got 1,200 things on sale. Let's see what's in the 40 to 60% off category here real quick. So wool, these are 50-gram balls for $2. That's really a hard price to beat. Looks like they've got a bunch of cotton on sale. I like working with crochet cotton occasionally. I can't work with it for very long because it like digs into my fingers and I don't love that. But yeah, so mostly I just wanted to make you aware of a big sale going on. I'm going to switch over. I think all of their books are on sale. I don't know why this says free book. What do they got here? If you spend $25, you get to put one of these books in your cart for free. It looks like they're like $18 books. I think they're pattern books from Knit Picks. But I wanted to actually go to their actual book page. I always think it's a little bit funny because you get all of these options for categories, but you get one option for crochet. Oh, was there a beginning crochet category as well? And that's true of a lot of websites. There's just way more knitting content out in the world. There's more books, there's more patterns, and that's just true. That complete crochet course though is on sale for 40% off here. I did check the price on Amazon, and this turns out is a really good deal as long as shipping is not crazy. And I don't think Knit Picks shipping is very high. Yeah, I don't think it's very expensive. So it would still be a good deal even if you have to pay for shipping, like even if you had Prime. I think it was $27 on Amazon. So as long as shipping's less than $10, it's a better deal here. Somebody last week recommended this Every Which Way crochet borders, and I have that on order from Amazon. I think I bought it used, so it's probably just a little bit cheaper than this, but this looks like a very good price for that book. I have this Step Into Crochet. It's all crochet socks. The thing to be leery of here is that and I say leery in the lightest sense of the word, you should just be forewarned that it's in UK terms and you'll have to translate it to US terms if that's what you're most familiar with. A lot of people just saying hi, welcome to everybody who's in the chat. But yeah, so just kind of checking for questions real quick. But this 150 all-time favorite crochet blocks I also ordered. I got it on eBay for like $3, so I'm interested to see what that is. Couple of live streams ago, we talked about maybe doing some like block of the month style, where we would work up a block sort of all together, and then choose some amount, so either like 12 or 24 of them, and that amount would make a blanket, and we could seam them all together and kind of do a project as a group. It would also be something to do on live streams or something like that. So I've been keeping an eye out for some of these crochet block type books, and I came across that one for cheap, but I can't say I recommend it yet. This crochet style book I own. It's a pretty good book. It's got a lot of just basic winter accessory patterns. But yeah, so there's a number of things on sale here. Books are 40%. Yarn is a variety of different sales. So if you were thinking about giving Knit Picks a try, it also looks like they've got tools on sale. I wonder so they've got yarn swifts. If you caught my live stream a couple of weeks ago, I showed a whole bunch of indie dyed yarns, and in order to use an indie dyed yarn, you either have to have somebody who can wrap it up for you, or you've got to wrap it into a ball yourself. You can't use it directly. The easiest way to wrap up yarn is to put the hank, which is the name for the twisty pretzel shape that the yarn is sold in. You untwist that. It is a big circle. You can get somebody to hold it. You can put it on the back of a chair, but there's a thing that is designed to hold them, and it's called a yarn swift. I have a cheap plastic one from Amazon. It was like $13. And then you can either hand ball it or you can get a yarn baller, which is, it's sort of like a thing that spins off center and it winds a really nice cake of yarn, like this. So in order to get it from that twisty shape to this, you need those tools. Knit Picks, I don't own tools from Knit Picks for yarn balling, but I have heard good things in the yarn community. What I was looking for, so they've got a set of mini tools. They've got their hooks on sale. But what I was looking for was their stitch markers. Knit Picks, and I'll just search for them. Makes these locking, these guys right here. And they're, I guess they're only $1.99. And they are 25% off for $1.49. If you order anything from Knit Picks and you are trying to get up to the $50 shipping limit or whatever, you just want to throw these in to try them out. These are my favorite stitch markers ever. They're the only ones that I use. I've bought 1,000 different kinds. I get free ones. I always come back to these ones. The plastic is flexible enough that you can actually pop them. I've had some that are made of like rigid plastic, and if you push on them too hard, they just sort of explode, and just really brittle plastic. Was not happy with those. I've had the really floppy, flexy ones that are like ring shaped. Those seem to stick to everything, and I don't know. These ones are hard, smooth plastic. They go in, you can lock them down. You don't have to lock them if you're just going to put it in there for a second. You can just loop them through and they stay pretty well. I don't know. Those are my favorites. That would be my strong recommendation from Knit Picks. These I can actually get at my local yarn store. So they must sell some stuff to yarn stores. And maybe it's just my yarn store that doesn't carry Knit Picks yarn. But I also have, and I don't know if these are on sale or not, I have their interchangeable Tunisian hooks. I think are these guys. Mine are green, but they're the same thing. So these are regular crochet hooks unless you add a extension to the end, and then they are a cable is what they're calling it. So you add a cable to the end, and then there's like a little stopper ring that goes on the bottom, and you use them for Tunisian crochet. I don't do a whole lot of Tunisian crochet, but I have done a little bit in the past, and I did enjoy the Knit Picks over like a long, so you can get Tunisian hooks that are like this long, or you can get Tunisian hooks that have a cable. So if you use a really long one, you have to hold the weight of your project on the hook, and then every time you move it, you have to lift the whole project up. And so you can make like 6 stitches like that, and then your hand hurts. So, and obviously that's an exaggeration, but the cable allows you to slide most of your project off to the end, and then it sort of dangles down on your lap or on the table or wherever you're working, and you can get most of the weight off of your hook, and the cable flexes, and you don't have to hold that weight up. So just something to sort of keep in mind. I have used these. They are Susan Bates style hooks, though. They have a inline throat instead of a tapered throat, and so that took some getting used to, and that's it's not negative, but it is different. That being said, I really wish Clover made a more interchangeable crochet hooks. It looks like their individual crochet hooks are on sale for the Clover or more, as well as the whole hook set. $41 is not a horrible price, but I regularly see them under $30 on Amazon, so I would maybe hold off on buying the hook set at that price. But yeah, so that's about all for Knit Picks. Mostly just wanted to make you aware of the sale. Anyway, I'm going to catch up with comments here for real quick. Okay. So just kind of looking through here. I know people, there's some discussion on why you would want to use expensive yarn for socks. I know a lot of people who wear exclusively hand knit socks. I haven't made a pair of crocheted socks. I'm a little bit torn. In most cases, I think you can do pretty much everything in knitting. You can find an equivalent in crochet. I'm not sure that's true of socks. Crochet is made of tiny little knots, where knitting is made of loops, and I'm a little bit afraid that crochet socks are not going to be comfortable like knit socks. That being said, I can knit like a row or two before I mess something up, and that's all the knitting I can do. So knitting socks is not going to be something I'm going to be able to do, if ever, for a very, very long time. But I know people who wear knit socks all the time, and they absolutely swear by them being the best. I only wear wool socks all week at work. Wool seems like it would be way too warm and your feet would be sweaty, and it's just not. It's so much better than cotton or acrylic or nylon or anything at being socks. And there's way more cushion. I work all day on concrete floors and steel toe shoes, and so I don't know. I could see the case for making your own socks or using expensive yarn for socks, I suppose. Especially if that expensive yarn is made of wool. I don't own any really thin wool socks. That would be interesting. I have some shoes that I prefer to wear with thin socks, but I would be interesting to see if I could get a really thin pair of wool socks or purchase a hand knit pair. Maybe I can work out a trade with somebody. But anyway, but yeah, so so the next thing I was going to look at is Lion Brand has a whole bunch of new yarns out. Lion Brand seems... Oh, my computer's dying. Hold on one second. I thought I'd already plugged it in. Lion Brand seems to release just oodles and oodles of yarn. Like every quarter, they're releasing 8 or 10 new yarns. So they're pretty hard to keep up with. But if there's some here that you really want to see, let me know and I'll get a hold of them. So first off, on Lion Brand's website, they're running a 5 for 10 sale, which again is a fantastic deal if you have some stuff to make, blankets, scarves. It's on specific yarns. I'm not a huge fan of homespun, but you can... It's a pretty yarn. It usually comes in beautiful colors, but the downside is that it's really tough to see your stitches. So if you work something that's primarily chains, homespun's not terrible to work with. So like a V-stitch is perfect because you have to work the first row and then you work your V's in, and that's a struggle. But as soon as you finish that like second row, then you can work all into your chains on your V's. So you do like a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, and then on the next row you just work into that space and you work the whole way up in V stitches. And then homespun or any fuzzy yarn is no big deal to work with. But if you want to do solid single crochet or solid double crochet, homespun is a nightmare to work with. Just because you can't see anything. It's a really like fluffy, chunky, fuzzy yarn. But if you like homespun, it's on sale in these colors for 5 for 10. Hometown USA is pretty good. I found that it like heaved a whole bunch of fluff out as you worked it, but I made a Minnie Mouse hat for a friend's kid, and she seemed to like it. She still wears it. So it's held up very well. But I was covered in pink and black fuzz for like 3 days. Like just everything was covered in fuzz when I used Hometown USA. Woolies is a very popular, just like base yarn uh, from Lion Brand. This lemongrass colorway is an interesting one. There's a really cute picture, or there's a really cute frog hood from, it's a company called, or a designer called Markin the Hat and I'm not really sure about, I'm positive that's the right name, but not really sure why that's the name. But they have a really cute frog hood, and I know it's done in this color or something very, very similar to it. I'm pretty sure it's done in Woolies. So that would be if you wanted to make that hood, 5 for $10 would get you like 2 hoods, I think. Doesn't take that much yarn to make them for a kid. There's some fun fur on sale. I would stay away from fun fur personally, but if you needed it for an edging, it's a great deal for it. And then there's some of these Vanna's palettes, and I thought these were interesting. I clicked on these earlier, and it looks like the Vanna's palettes are a number 4 medium weight yarn instead of being fine yarn, or something kind of thin. And they match and coordinate with the Vanna's Choice yarns. So if you wanted to do like, all right, so you get these 8 colors in here, you could do something like a gray shawl and then do a stripe of each of these, and it would look like a rainbow on a cloudy day type of feel to it. Or alternatively, they've got earth tones and what they're calling essential, which are basically like nudes, various light browns and pinks, and reminds me of like eyeshadow palettes. So they're on sale, 5 for $10. I'm sure you have to pay shipping. Shipping's probably not super cheap, but probably cheap enough to justify these low prices. So if there's something on there that interests you, I just wanted to let you know that these guys are on sale. But really what we were here to look at is new yarn. And in Lion Brand fashion, they have a bunch of yarn going on right now. So their big thing that they're promoting is their partnership with Crayola. They've got this off the loop yarn, which is the kind of yarn that already has the pre-made loops that you can loop through each other and make like super easy finger knitting, or kind of like fake finger knitting. You don't even have to make the loops, you just loop them through. So they have those in Crayola colors. I assume that they're targeting either making kids projects or actually giving them to kids to work with, because apparently these off the hook or loop it or whatever yarns are really good for getting little kids interested, without having to have the dexterity to use knitting needles or crochet hooks. They're tool free, so no hooks, no needles needed. But yeah, it looks like these come in primary colors and then a number of variegated colorways. And then this one I hadn't heard of till this morning. This is a Crayola cake yarn. It looks like they all come in like primary colors. And they're all like a gradient or a palette of the same color in different tones. Or different saturations, I guess, is the better description. I think there's multiple oranges there. It's not showing very well up. But yeah, the yellow you can see there's like their zoom in is a little bit aggressive. I wonder if I can just click. Yeah, I can just click. So there's like a light yellow and then a medium yellow and then sort of a dandelion color in here. But yeah, so they've got the Crayola yarns, and then so that's their big thing. I guess those are 30% off in addition to being brand new. And then they've got all these new ones. So Faye is pretty interesting. I looked at this earlier. This is a 100% cotton fingering weight yarn. So that's relatively interesting. I don't think I've ever seen 100% cotton fingering weight from either indie dyers or from big box stores. At least not one that I can think of. These come in sort of the same idea as those Crayola cake yarns. They're in single colors with sort of a variation from light to dark. And then they've got Dotted Line, which is number 2 weight acrylic yarn. It looks just like a bunch of speckles. Comes in a handful of colors. Boing looks like some sort of rope. I don't know. It's pretty interesting. I wonder if it's springy and that's where they're coming up with the name, or if it just looks springy. But it looks like a bunch of like roving yarn, sort of made into some sort of dreadlock looking yarn. But that comes in a bunch of, looks like dark colors. This one's pretty wild, sort of rainbow rope. I don't know what you would do with this long, like what kind of project you would make out of this, but it'll be interesting to see. I think all of these, so TNNA is a big conference for designers and yarn sellers and YouTube content creators and all sorts of people in the yarn industry. And that happened last week, and so I suspect all of these were revealed at TNNA, and it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of projects or anything available for any of these yet. So it'll be interesting to see what they suggest that you do with this yarn, because it's gigantic. Though they're only saying it's a number 5 bulky yarn, so it looks a heck of a lot bulkier in the picture. Mandala Ombre is available at Walmart. I picked 2 of these up recently. I think I showed them on a live stream, and if I didn't, I can certainly do them next week. I'm going to try and pick some of these out, so if any of these appeal to you, please let me know, and I'll try and pick. I probably will not get all of them, so if there's something in particular that you want to see, let me know. This one's called Tweedledee. It's a tweed yarn. That's really kind of cool. It's a very, very deep purple. Very reminiscent of my hair. Maybe I'll get this in, they've got it in like a magenta and then an indigo and this dark purple, and that could make a really cool shawl of some sort for me. A new yarn called Summer Nights comes in a handful of colors that all are sort of beachy. Looks like it's acrylic and polyester, and it is a number 1 superfine. I'm really liking the fact that Lion Brand is getting out a variety, and I've said this several times before, they're getting a variety of different weights out into big box stores. So if you see a pattern and it calls for a fingering weight yarn and you really want to do it, but you don't want to spend $30 on an indie dyed gradient, some of these Lion Brand yarns can easily be substituted in for a lot of those yarns. Looks like the Summer Nights yarn is 100 grams, 437 yards. That'd be a perfect substitution for a 100-gram shawl. Like any pattern that calls for a 100-gram ball of fingering weight yarn, this would be a drop-in substitute for. Looks like Lion Brand also has some extra heavyweight dish yarn. It's a number 6 weight cotton. They're doing, yeah, they're doing some interesting stuff with cotton here. So I picked up a scrubby yarn, which I think is over here, and I can reach. Maybe not. Well, I picked up a scrubby yarn, but it was plastic, like it was polyester or nylon or something. This is 100% cotton, so that's interesting. As with pretty much all cotton, it comes in relatively blah colors. Cotton is shockingly difficult to dye into bright colors. It's one of the reasons that like t-shirts and stuff are cotton poly blends, because you can dye polyester in vivid colors, and cotton just, you're stuck with some sort of blah colors in a lot of cases. Though the orange here looks pretty good. The pink doesn't look terrible. This teal's not bad. And the sky blue doesn't look bad. And then black and white look fine as well. But, like, this purple is pretty, I don't know, doesn't thrill me. Yellow looks a little bit dingy already. Same with the green, is not thrilling. So, but yeah, I have no idea what a dishcloth would look like worked up in a number 6 weight yarn, because I don't know of anybody who makes a number 6 weight cotton. So that's kind of interesting. There's a yarn here called Frothy, and it looks kind of frothy. This is that Bulce style yarn. It's Boulce. I don't know if it's Bulce or I don't know how to say it, but it's a particular style of yarn where it looks all crazy like this. We were talking about Premier Puzzle, and I think it looks like this, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong about that. I know Premier has a yarn that looks like that, though. Let's see, what else? Did we skip anything along here? That's the Crayola yarn, the Mandala Ombre. It's another one in the Mandala series. 100% acrylic.
Kind of. Puzzle looks less crazy.
Okay. My husband's saying that Puzzle does look a little bit less crazy than the Frothy yarn. I think Puzzle has longer color changes as well. But let's see, what else do we have here? Ribbonair. It looks like a flat, sort of velvety ribbon. So these tape yarns generally end up working very much like round yarn. Like, even though they're completely flat, they usually end up looking fine. But I don't know. It would be interesting to see what kind of projects we could come up for this. This one looks a little bit different. It looks like it's got like 2 different tones to it. So there's like a shiny part and then sort of a matte part. So that could make for some interesting shawls. This Arcadia is kind of a cool, reminds me of like Wizard of Oz Emerald City or something. But anyway, then the Crayola cake yarns, Mandala Tweed looks like it's new. Just sort of a multicolor tweed. Doesn't look like it comes in very many colors. You get 3 here. Dice, Lucky Penny, and 7. So I guess they're gambling themed. But yeah, there's a lot of color going on there. They're 2-tone and then also like rainbow. I don't know. Some interesting stuff going on there. I don't know how those look worked up. This one's called Just My Stripe. Looks like it's a self-striping yarn. Looks shockingly like the original Mandala colors. In fact, I'm pretty sure they're the original Mandala colors renamed. Because I'm absolutely positive I have this colorway right now in Mandala yarn. I think the original Mandala yarn was a number 3 weight, so maybe they just redid the same colorways in a slightly heavier yarn. And then there's a Woolies DK. Woolies is like their sort of core brand. I think that's, when I think of Lion Brand, Woolly is like, that's their bread and butter, I guess. And you can get it in pretty much every weight and every shape, and it comes all kinds of different ways. So these are caked up. I am going to forewarn you that there's a chance we could lose power here because it's storming pretty bad outside. So if that happens, that's what happened. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting is that Lion Brand is now offering hand-dyed yarn, and they are starting it at $6.99. So if you want to try some hand-dyed yarn, and don't want to put $30 a skein in, this could be interesting. I have no idea what the quality of the yarn is. For $6.99, it is 80% acrylic, 20% wool. So you're still not getting 100% wool or a wool blend. I'm not totally sure how they're hand dyeing acrylic, but we'll let that part be. Acrylic is pretty difficult to dye, so, but they're saying it's real hand-dyed yarn. It does look like it comes in a number of pretty colors. Caramel apple. Actually, caramel apple is really pretty. It's kind of a gray and red and earth tones. So, anyway, there's some options for you if you're looking for hand-dyed yarn and don't want to spend an arm and a leg. I think this was a hand-dyed fingering weight yarn, even. It's 100% nylon, and it is, no, it's a DK weight. I misremembered. I also don't know that I've ever felt 100% nylon yarn that wasn't like, paracord or something. I don't know what 100% nylon would feel like when it's intended to be a yarn. But yeah, a bunch of these are available at select Joann Fabrics, and Joann Fabric is having an online sale, and you get the online prices if you buy online and pick up in store. I've done that in the past. There's only 2 stores that, like, in the whole region around me that get brand new yarns. And those are both about 140 miles away from me. So I probably will pick some of these and order them and get them in to review. But yeah, it looks like most of those are available already on Joann Fabric's website, and they're already on sale. So that's kind of a big bonus. So if anyone has any questions about these, if there's any one in particular or a couple that you guys would really like to see, put those in the chat section, and I will order a handful of these, and we'll do a big unboxing, and I'll give you my initial thoughts, and then I can do more in-depth reviews as I get to work them up into projects. And I know you guys probably cannot hear it, but it is raining so hard outside. It's kind of crazy. Let's see. I'm going to kind of flip through comments here and see. Yeah, so just people mentioning another channel reviewed the hand-dyed Lion Brand yarn and gave it a thumbs up. So I probably will pick up one of those and just see how it is. I guess, I don't know, I don't mind paying a little bit more for hand-dyed from an indie dyer, but I also like a good deal. So if it ends up being a nice yarn, I would definitely use it for something. So we'll just have to see how it is. Like I said, I'm interested to see what 100% nylon yarn feels like when it's not intended to be nylon rope. Like, I don't know that I've felt soft nylon spun into a yarn. There is occasionally nylon in sock yarn, but it's usually only about 10%. 100% nylon, I would imagine, is really, like, springy. But yeah. So if you guys have questions, anything crochet related you guys would like to talk about, kind of gonna turn it over to you and see if there's any Q&A that we want to go through. And then otherwise, if you have some preference on any of these yarns you'd like to see, I'm thinking I'm probably going to order some of the Tweedledee because it looks like it comes in really cool, intense colors. I'm definitely going to order some of the Faye because 100% cotton fingering weight yarn is something that appeals to me. I'm not in love with the colorways on Faye, though. I have to be perfectly honest. They're kind of blah. And again, I guess it's probably because they're cotton, and cotton just doesn't take dye like acrylics do. So maybe they'll look fine. But I'm thinking maybe this one, which is called Grumpy. They all named after dwarfs? No. A lot of times Lion Brand has themes going on. These don't have a theme that I can pick out. But anyway, I'm going to probably pick up one of these balls of Faye. Likely going to get some of the Tweedledee, but if there's something here that you guys really want to see, let me know. Side dish is interesting. Dotted line is kind of cool looking, but I suspect it's not going to be anything substantially different than any of their other 100% acrylic yarns. Like, they're just good workhorse yarns, meaning that they're good for a variety of projects. This is just seemingly another yarn in another color. Oh, it is interesting that it is a sport weight yarn. So that's something different. It's number 2, 100% acrylic. So that's a little bit different. And like I said, I love that Lion Brand is coming out with some fine yarns. It really makes substituting yarns a lot easier for. So if a designer makes a pattern and they use an expensive yarn, a lot of times like a fingering weight or a sport weight, you really can only get in like hand-dyed yarns. It's pretty hard to get a number 1 or number 2 yarn in pretty colors in a big box store for a reasonable price. And so people feel like they can't substitute yarns easily for those types of patterns. So I really like that Lion Brand is making that more available, and really making it more inclusive for every budget. Looking at a couple of questions. Somebody asked what my first name is. My name is Maggie. And so if you check out any of my videos, it starts with that. But yeah, so nice to meet you. I'm glad that you're here watching the live stream. Hopefully you're enjoying it and you're going to subscribe and join us next week for the live stream. I've been trying really hard to live stream on Tuesday nights at about 8 o'clock my time, which is Central Time. It doesn't always happen, but I think 4 out of the 5 of the last weeks, I think I've live streamed on Tuesday night, and one of them I live streamed on a Wednesday night. So it's either 4 or 5 weeks in a row now that we've had a live stream. So it's been a lot of fun chatting with you guys. The part of the live stream that makes things continue to run is all of the chatting going on and the questions being asked. So I really appreciate that from you guys. Because I can come up with something to talk about for 25 or 30 minutes, but then I need some input and feedback from you guys, and you guys have been really great about chatting away and asking questions that I can respond to then. Yeah, so Mary's asking if I've reviewed any of the Crochet subscription boxes. She heard of a new one on today's Marley Bird podcast. So I don't know which one she reviewed today. I didn't catch that podcast. It's not something I listen to normally, but I have reviewed one of them. I bought and paid them for them myself. It's from a company called Lither Co. Yeah, I have a whole pile of them that I'm going to reach for over here. I am going to spill them all over myself. I think that these are a really good deal. So in each of the boxes, and I've said this before, but I'm not sponsored by these. I've paid for all these myself. I have no affiliation with this company. I just think it's cool because it's a crochet subscription box. But I think these are a really good deal. So what you get in them is a hook that is hand turned by the owner's husband. They've just switched away from all wooden hooks to wooden handles with metal hooks set in them, which personally I think is probably a better idea anyway, because machining the hook end is the really important part for crochet. They have to be spot on, and I assume one that creates a lot of waste for them if they get it like one too small, or they have to not send it with that box and they have to hold it for another subscription month. And two, I think yarn slides better on metal than it does on wood. So if you get a little nick or a scratch or something in wood, it's going to catch yarn over and over again. So I'm going to show you what's in a few of these. I probably won't open all of them. Most of them I've unboxed on other live streams, and it should be mentioned either in the title or in the description if you want to go back and see all of these. I think this is the first box I got. So this was the all wooden style crochet hook. I'm going to clear off a space here, and then I can show you in a little bit more detail. And why I think that these are a good deal, even though they're a little bit pricier than you might pay for a subscription box. So you get a, like I said, hand-turned crochet hook. These are done by the owner's husband. You still get the hand-turned handle, but the hook end is metal. You get a pattern, and I'm going to try not to show the pattern instructions here. This side is just like a description. One of the cool things about the subscription is because she can control the yarn, the pattern, and the hook, she can send out a specific project and know that everybody's going to be able to work the whole thing because you got all the pieces to do it. So you get yarn, hand-dyed yarn. All of it has been, I think, 100% wool. I don't think I've gotten anything that was not wool so far. And which is no problem for me. I love wool. So, pattern card, ball of yarn, hook. This is just like a little intro card that tells you what should be in there. And then there was a special gift. There is a special gift each month. This one was a cute little pair of bear scissors that are all metal all the way through. Just a little sort of finding or knick-knack to go with the subscription box. So I think that was the first one that I ordered. This subscription, I believe, is $40 a month, and I think that is the shipped price. So $40 out the door. I really don't have any issue paying $20 to $30 for a ball of hand-dyed indie yarn. It's a little bit of a gamble because you don't know what you're getting. It's up to the woman who runs the company. She dyes up the same yarn for everybody. Everyone gets the same hook size. Everyone gets the same pattern. So it's kind of a fun surprise each month. I have not gotten one yarn that I was displeased with, and some that I thought were really beautiful. This one I opened on stream last week. Came with a really beautiful like gray and green and blush colored yarn. And the pattern was intended to make an alpaca lovey that looks like this. It came with the hook again. And so here's the hook. And again, this is the type of hook that has the handle is hand turned and the metal is set in there instead of being wood all the way through. And then this one also came with the stuffing and the safety eyes and the detail yarn to do all the features on the alpaca lovey. So, close this guy up. I have used the hooks just a little bit. They feel really nice, but I'm just not used to using a hook that heavy. I think they would be really fantastic for somebody who has like arthritis and doesn't want a really stiff hand. I don't know. They fit really nice into your hand. They feel really nice and well made. I'm really picky about the metal on my hooks, having to be very slippery. Clover Amour hooks, which is what I use all the time, have this like powder coating or something on them that just makes them like crazy slippery. I don't know what it is, but they're different than anything I've ever felt, and so I'm pretty picky on my hooks being slippery. And these seem to be just about as slippery as the Clover ones. It's just they feel awkward to me because I'm used to using a very small crochet hook. And so I use my pinky down here for a lot more than I realize. And so it's just taking some time to adapt to. But I have no doubt that I could switch to these if I wanted to crochet exclusively with those. The patterns seem to be relatively simple. That being said, you can see that I have not worked any of these up yet, but they seem to be pretty well written, and then they're available as a PDF. There's like a link that you can follow and get the PDF version through there, so you can print out and write all over your pattern. You don't have to write on like the little postcard that they send. But yeah, I've gotten a variety of stuff. This one came with a lotion bar, a hook, and sort of a Starry Night themed, and actually it's called Starry Night themed yarn, and works up with a really pretty pattern here, sort of reminiscent of the Starry Night painting. So, yes, so somebody's asking if all of the subscription boxes in front of me are from the same company. It's a monthly subscription. I think you can do a one-time subscription. I have mine set to auto-renew monthly. So, I don't know. I like getting surprises in the mail. I used to get Birchbox, which was a makeup subscription, and I don't know, I used maybe one of the things in each box, and it cost about the same, and so, I don't know. Well, no, it was cheaper than this, but I get a lot more use out of crochet items. The little knick-knack type things, or findings, I guess you'd call them. I've gotten scissors. There was a lotion bar in one. There's been stitch markers in one. Those are more fun for me than random makeup that I don't know if I want to use at all. So, that being said, the men's Birchbox is really cool. The women's is kind of lame, but the men's always seemed really cool. The name of the subscription is Leither Co. Leither Co. My name, just for, I'm not sure which question. My name is Maggie. The name of the subscription is Leither Co. So, there are other subscriptions out there. There used to be a company called Yarnbox. I got yarn from them for a while. They no longer do their subscription service, though they do have like a clearance warehouse type of website, where you can go on, and occasionally there's really good deals on some fancy yarn, but mostly it seems to be sold out pretty regularly recently. I did get some good stuff from them right after they went out of business. And then I'm trying to think. There's Knit Crate, but I think it's a knitting focused. I think you can get just yarn from Knit Crate. But if you want one of the pattern subscriptions or one of the ones that has like the little trinkets and gifts and findings and stuff, then you have to be willing to accept that some of them are going to be knitting specific, like needles instead of hooks, or locked stitch markers. So if you crochet, you have to have stitch markers that open up to be removed. Knitting, when you knit with them, you knit them back off, and you can remove them when you finish the row. Or something like that. I don't really understand how netting stitch markers work, if I'm being perfectly honest. I know you can use the lobster claw ones to mark where you're at in the project, but the solid ring ones, I think, come off on the next row or move up or something like that. I just know that you can't use them for crochet. Oh, somebody's saying Knit Crate does include a crochet pattern each month. That is either new or I didn't understand that when I looked at Knit Crate originally. Because I did look to subscribe to Knit Crate a while back, and like I said, that's either a new development or I misread their website. Both are possible. But yeah, I would be interested in trying out a different crochet specific subscription service, but so far this one actually seems to be pretty nice, and so I've gone with that. And I've just left it to auto renew each month. So like I said, I haven't gotten a bad color yarn, something that I don't like or something that just really doesn't appeal to me. I tend to like purples and blues and pinks, but I'm pretty flexible on colors generally. So it probably relatively difficult to find something that I would outright hate. But let's see. Happy Hook box that ships quarterly for $70. That sounds interesting. I'll take a look at that. I don't generally make blankets, but I've been making a lot more baby blankets, and I would think for $70, it almost would have to be baby blankets. I don't know. $70 is not, if you're including shipping, is not unreasonable for a handmade blanket's worth of yarn. So that'd be pretty interesting. The crochet patterns are interesting, but the yarn is more knit centric. I guess I'm not totally sure what you mean by knit centric, unless you mean like self-striping yarns. Self-striping yarns work a lot better with knitting than they do with crochet. But yeah. Okay. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me or not, but it sounds like we're having some technical difficulties. Could just be that something happened with our internet. Oh, okay. Okay. So, sounds like we should be back, hopefully. My video is paused over on my screen, so whoop, I don't want to play that for sure. Okay. Well, hopefully you guys can hear me. Says the screen was frozen. Oh, I wonder if it's because my computer went to sleep. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you guys for letting us know that we're back and everything's working. Yeah, so I'm interested to look into the Happy Hook. I think subscription boxes are kind of fun. I don't know. Some people don't like taking the chance that they're going to get $70 worth of something that they hate. I always assume that if I really hate it that bad, that somebody will buy it from you. Like you could resell it, but mostly I just amass massive piles of yarn, even if I don't like it very much. So, anyway, um, yeah, I guess if you guys have any other questions about anything crochet related, I'd love to hear those. Otherwise, we can wrap it up for the night and see you guys again next week. So, I'll wait just a minute or two to see if any more questions come in. But yeah, these live streams have been a lot of fun, but coming up with specific topics to talk about has been a little bit of a, I guess I wouldn't say struggle, but a lot of times I'm not sure what you guys would like to hear about. So if there's something in particular, any crochet or yarn related topic that you'd like to learn a little bit more about, I'd love to hear your ideas and, devote the first half of a live stream to some ideas that you guys want to see. So, if you're watching right now, put those in the live chat. If you're watching this later on, put them down in the comment section. Or even if you think of something later and you want to just throw that in the comment section later on, that would be great. Any ideas on topics that you guys would like to hear are appreciated. So, I think I remember hearing about the Jimmy Beans box, and I'm pretty sure it is pretty knit centric. I think if I remember correctly, they have like a sock yarn one, but it only comes with like a knitting sock pattern. And then they have another one, and I think it was maybe it had crochet patterns, but I tend to like sock yarns the most, but I don't knit into socks. I usually turn sock yarn into shawls generally. My favorite go-to patterns, favorite designers. It's kind of a funny thing, but my favorite go-to patterns are not actually from my favorite designers. One of my favorite designers is Rachie Newen Designs. She makes beautiful 100-gram shawls. She makes a bunch of other things, fingerless gloves and scarves and stuff, and I've mentioned her before. But she for a long time was on a kick where she was doing 100-gram fingering weight. Like you could do the entire pattern with one ball of yarn. And I was testing for her for a while and made a whole bunch of different beautiful shawls. And so she's one of my favorites. Her patterns are well written. She does a really good job making sure that they're properly tested and edited right. And so they're really nice patterns. They are all paid patterns, I think, with like 3 exceptions. But my favorite go-to patterns, I guess, as far as shawls go, and I think we touched on this last week, as far as shawls go, my definite favorite is Moogly Blog's Fortune Shawlette. It's a really simple corner-to-corner style shawl. It's just worked with extra holes instead of double crochets in some of the places. As far as baby blankets, I tend to like solid baby blankets. The last couple patterns that I've worked up, I've been really happy with. But prior to that, my favorite was probably, there's a diamond pattern that I shared in the comment section of last week's live stream. It makes a nice solid blanket, and then it's a crisscross with holes, and so it makes a beautiful diamond shape. But yeah, I guess if there's something else, yeah. Oh, Vicky asked if she missed the books. So I did go through the books a little bit earlier. I was having people weigh in on edging for the interlocking shells blanket that I just finished. All of the books I'm going to try and review in more depth. Someone also asked me if I could put a list of what's on the table here in the comment section or in the info section, so that they could look them up at their library. So I will do that. I'll list out what's on the table here. And if there's one in particular that jumps out at you, then let me know and we'll try and do a more in-depth review on that book. As soon as this video processes, though, you can go back and rewatch it. It usually takes a couple hours before it fully processes, so sometime tomorrow you can go back and rewatch it and find that book section. And if one of those books strikes you as interesting, let me know. Multiples. Sorry, I'm just catching up here. My husband's trying to keep me on track so I don't miss any of your comments. Oh, how to figure out multiple for patterns of stitches that don't give them. Yeah, we could definitely talk about that. If not on a live stream, certainly on an edited video. It's honestly something I can figure out, but it's not a trivial thing. Like I get where you're coming from. A lot of times it can be hard. It looks like you've got the whole stitch in there, and then you go to the next row and you're not sure that you've got all of it. So yeah, that's an interesting topic. Definitely we could cover. Oh, reading patterns. Yeah, definitely. I have a plan to get a video together on how to read patterns. It's just it's a little bit of a tricky thing to try and teach without feedback from the student. So, what I mean by that is I can explain something, but unless I'm sure that you understood that, I don't want to move on. And so getting it so I'm positive that I'm clear enough has been a little bit tricky. This Crochet Master Course book that I showed earlier on stream has a section up front, and I just sort of glanced over it, but it has a whole like 4 or 5 pages. I'm trying to find it here. It's probably not terribly important to show, honestly, but they go through. Let me push these books out of the way. They go through, like, here's what a pattern would look like, how to get the information that you need out of it, then how to read pattern, like there's sections of patterns, how to understand the finishing instructions, and then they go through on using how to understand how the individual instructions are written, and then what to do with repeats. And so they do a really nice job here in text in explaining that. So I may take that as part of a outline for a large video tutorial on how to follow through all of those steps and what questions to ask yourself at each step to make sure that you understand the pattern correctly. But pattern reading is really, really important if you want to be able to just make anything that you see, because if you can just follow those instructions, generally it comes out correctly. And so it's really nice to just let somebody else do the math for you and then just follow their instructions and get something really cool. So Definitely I can get some pattern reading. I also want to do some information on how to read charts as well. Patterns don't always come with charts, but occasionally you'll find patterns, especially from other languages. A lot of Russian patterns, a lot of Japanese patterns are all charted. And if you can read those, you don't have to read Russian or Japanese, you can just read the chart. And those are universal. They're also really helpful if you have UK patterns, because it's really easy to get yourself in the mindset of, okay, I can remember that a single crochet, they call a double crochet, and you remember that for 3 lines, and then all of a sudden you read the next line and it says to do this, and you do the US version, or vice versa. So if you're reading charts, that doesn't happen because the symbols are the same because they go with the stitch, not with the name. So, yeah. So big, long, elaborate videos like that take a lot more planning, and they take a little bit longer to come out, and a lot longer to produce, but I definitely will get those to the top of my list and get them out. Just know that they might take a little longer than something like a review or a simple tutorial. So, yeah. Yeah. Well, with that being said, I'm probably going to wrap up for the night, and I've got a couple of good ideas here from you guys on live streams for next week. But yeah, thank you for joining me. Again, I can be found on Facebook and Instagram at Experiments in Crafting. If you ever have questions, you want to directly message me, you can do that. If you have projects that you've finished out of tutorials that I've done videos on, so my corner to corner, or my interlocking shells, or the granny spike stitch, or any of the other tutorials that I have available, I love to see finished projects on tutorials that I have videos on. So please share those with me. Otherwise, hopefully I will see you back next week. We should be streaming about 8 o'clock Central Time on Tuesday next week. So, oh yes. So we should be having an edging video from the edging that we picked out tonight. I'm going to try both of those out and see which one looks better on the blanket. And then we should also have a review on the DK colors, like an in-depth review on that coming out. And then potentially a couple of other things in the works, and we'll get some reviews on these books out as well. So all of those should come out. So make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so you get notifications. YouTube changed the way they do their notifications. So if you're not getting notifications about all of my videos, there's like a little bell that you can hit, and that will turn on all the notifications. And otherwise, we will hopefully see you back here next week. Have a good rest of your week. Bye.